Okay, Mark meets Gail Gallie, the CEO at Fallon. Hi Gail.
Hello.
Can you give us a very quick summary of your career?
I started in advertising. I went into the media after that.
What year was this roughly?
It was 1992. I left university. I went into advertising because I thought at the time it was a bit like telly. So I wanted to go into telly, but you couldn't get a job in telly that paid you money.
And what degree did you do?
Languages.
Okay.
I did French and Italian, so nothing to do with advertising at all. But I did. I've always liked the media, and so I went into advertising. My first agency was one called Darcy Macy Spencer and Bowles. Doesn't exist anymore, but brilliant training agency.
Who was the creative director then?
Jeremy Pemberton. Good question. Don't know where he is now. But the relevant boss, my first boss was Robert Senior.
Okay.
Who's now my boss again because he's the global CEO for Versace SSF Group. And I did pretty straight stuff there. Things like B&G, Gordon's Gin. Then I went, after 2 years, I went to what's it called? It was called BNP DDB, which is now called DDB. And I worked on the Labour Party account, which saw Tony Blair and that government get into power in 1997.
So what was your actual role in advertising then when you first got into it?
I was a graduate trainee in account management.
Fine, so you got into the client services side of things?
Yes. I think that was always what I was going to do. I like the service industry. You know, I like getting jobs done. I like making people happy. And then after doing the Labour election campaign, I felt closer to the media than I did to advertising. So I wrote a letter, actually madly, a real letter, to the BBC, to Radio 1, and said I had always liked what they do. I love music.
Who did you address it to?
Matthew Bannister, who was then the controller of Radio 1. He, in an amazing piece of good luck, the head of marketing for Radio 1 had just been promoted somewhere else in the team. So they took one look at my letter and thought, advertising, marketing, that must be quite similar. Let's get her in. And that worked. So I got that job, and then I had 8 amazing years as the head of marketing for Radio 1, and increasingly head of marketing for youth for the BBC. And then I did sport, and I did online.
So that was over at White City, yeah?
Both. I had an office in Radio 1, which is just up the road in Soho, and I had an office down White City.
And where did you live at the time?
I lived in a Kentish town at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, North London.
Fine. Then after the BBC, what happened?
So after the BBC, I decided to take a break. I'd gone so far up the BBC that I felt like I wasn't doing anything. I was across a lot of things, but I wasn't actually responsible for any one thing, and I missed that. So I left the BBC and I became a consultant and worked for myself for a couple of years, working for different clients, mainly in the arts and the media, helping them do their marketing campaigns, pick their agencies, that kind of thing. And I set up a small consultancy called Gail Gallie, which did marketing and PR together with a mate. And that was doing very well. And then I got headhunted to come back and run Fallon, to come back into this side of the industry. That's what I did.
And it was a no-brainer?
No-brainer. I love Fallon. I'd worked with Fallon for 8 years as their client. I was their first UK client. I'd always loved what they did and how they did it, and just the fact they believe, they really believe that creativity can shift anything. And I love that. So the chance to come back and help that into its next stage was far too good to turn down.
What's the most embarrassing thing to happen to you in your career so far?
At Fallon or generally?
Generally.
So when I was running the Labour Party account, I put up the wrong poster for a poster unveiling. I didn't, but the poster contractor did. And I had all the media lined up. It was the start of the campaign, so it was the days when they took a curtain down.
What, like vote Conservative?
No, I put health up, and it was meant to be tax. And there was a whole press conference lined up about tax. And literally seconds before I pulled it down, I got wind of what had gone wrong. So I had to try and get all the media back onto a bus on some false premise and just drive them around London for a bit until the poster contractors could post the right poster. The bus crashed. I mean, it was like,
oh my god!
And all the time I had the Labour Party comms team, so people like Campbell, Peter Mandelson, Gordon Brown, all in the background waiting to start their press conference. That was delayed because we put the wrong poster up.
And did they know why it was delayed?
Yeah. Horrific. I think after that moment, nothing is stressful again.
If you could work for any agency in the world, obviously apart from Fallon, who would it be?
At the moment, and actually always, Wieden and Kennedy Portland, I think, just do such interesting things. I've never been there, but I love what they do, so I'd be fascinated to see.
And who inspires you? Is there anyone in the creative industry, not necessarily in advertising, but in the creative industry, who inspires you?
God, it's a cliche, but Steve Jobs, and what he did with Apple. You know, if you read his book, his attention to detail is astounding. You know,
I'm on chapter 3, and the amount of detail in it, I'm like
amazing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, apparently he flies out to the forests to choose the trees that go on the tables in the Apple stores. He did. Amazing. So that I find that really inspiring, and I find all those tech guys, even the more annoying ones, I find Google fantastic. I mean, I just think their spirit and their ethos is wonderful and exciting, and the fact that you can care about what you do and become so incredibly profitable, I think is the right way around, rather than try and be incredibly profitable and not really care about how you do it. So I'm a big fan of theirs.
When you entered the industry, were you the kind of person that always wanted to be a CEO?
No, hopeless. I had to get told off by one of my other bosses, Amanda McKenzie, who is now in charge of global marketing for Aviva. She gave me a bonus that I had to go and spend on clothes because my clothes were so cheap.
You still dressed like a student when you were working there?
Quite a bad student, a bad overweight student. And so, no, I never thought I'd be a CEO. But I do love running things. Yeah, I love running a team.
And now that you are a CEO, what does that mean to you?
Responsibility. You know, I think I've got two responsibilities. One is for the brand of Fallon, which is incredibly important that it carries on, I think, in the industry. So many people want it to do well. So that's my first one. And the second one is for the people I look after, both my staff and my clients' businesses. So that's a lot of responsibility, but it also means freedom, because if you get up one day and have a great idea, you've got quite a good chance of making it happen, and that's really exciting.
And what advice would you give to people who maybe are entering the industry with a plan to become a CEO at some point in their career?
Ditch the plan. If you set out to try and be a CEO, you'll not look at what you're doing right now. And A, you'll not enjoy it properly, and B, you won't be as good at it as you could be.
So try and be the best at what you're doing at the time.
Whatever you are doing in that moment, be the best you can. Don't excuse it because you can do this next, or just do what you're doing now as well as you can, and CEOship will come.
And do you have a soft spot for people that are in client services today? Obviously, that's the route you came through. Do you pay particular attention to those guys, or?
Well, I certainly respect what they do. I think they have the hardest job in the industry because they have all the responsibility, but none of the glory when it goes well, and all of the shit when it goes badly. So I really respect what they do. Similarly, they tend to have higher salaries and higher mobility and higher power at the end of the day. So I'm respectful of what they do, but I don't indulge them particularly. It's a job like any other job.
Has it changed much, do you think, now from when you first entered?
Oh my gosh, yes. When we first did it, well, there was no digital. So if a client gave you a brief, by and large you were talking about TV and maybe print as well, and that was it.
The radio?
Maybe some radio, but radio was so easy, and there tended to be one person in the agency that was a one-man band that did the whole thing, talked direct to client, did everything. And you weren't so financially pressured. This thing about profitability, all of that used to be handled by a finance department. I mean, it was a very different job. You know, you were a brand builder for your client, and you were a negotiator between the creatives and the client, and that's pretty much it. Whereas now, you know, there's all these other channels that have to be managed. There's different agency relationships that have to be managed, which tends to be the job of the account leader in the agency. The financial pressure is intense.
So would you say being a brand builder in client services agency side back then, it was easier to move client side to run the marketing departments, or would you say it's easier these days?
It's probably easier these days. I think they're closer these days. I think back then the brand leader was quite a specialised, rarefied job really, and you needed to know how advertising works, but pretty much all. Whereas I think now to be a business leader in an agency, I prefer to think of them as business leaders, you need to understand your clients' world and business. So actually a transfer these days I think would be easier. I definitely welcome people to come to Fallon who have had client experience, because I think it makes them more rounded individuals.
In the current economic climate with things not looking amazing, have you ever had the threat of redundancy before?
Personally,
yeah.
I took redundancy from BBC,
okay,
but that was not a commercial reality, that was a BBC downsizing. I did a redundancy plan and I was so miserable doing it that I put myself in it. So I always say there's a lot of people being made redundant right now. It is not the end of your career. It can feel very damaging, especially if it's not your choice. It was my choice that it happened to me.
Did you have a mortgage? Did you have responsibilities at the time?
And I should have got quite a lot of money. So it was a great thing.
It was a win-win for you.
It was a win-win. And I recognise now it's not a win-win, but I think it's all about, life is all about how you deal with things. It's not about what happens to you, it's how you deal with it. And I think in this day and age, so many people are being made redundant. I don't really know anyone, even at my level, who hasn't at some point had or faced redundancy. You will come back from it. Just use it. Use it as time off, use it to change your course, use it as something positive. Don't let it get you down, because it is the reality we're in.
Yeah.
And I don't see that changing that soon.
Do you get involved in the interview process these days when you're hiring at Fallon?
Yeah.
And if so, what kind of level would you get involved in?
It depends. I get involved for two reasons. One is if it's a person who's close enough to me that I'm going to have a real opinion on who the right person is. The other way...
So a kind of management level?
Yeah, or senior suit, or I'm certainly one of my management team, yeah.
Yeah.
But equally, there might be somebody being hired who is going to have a big impact on the agency. So, say a head of design, that won't necessarily work directly to me, but I might care about who that person is. I also get involved with somebody we're really trying to get. So if it's someone that we feel that we need to sell the agency hard to,
yeah.
then I make sure I take the time to do that to show that this person really matters to us. I love people, and I think that particularly the advertising industry, that's all we've got. So I would spend all day interviewing if I could. It's important to me.
So if people are looking to work for Fallon at some point in their career, what advice would you give them? What do they need to do to impress the agency?
Passion for ideas, that's what we're all about. I love people who've done other stuff on the side, so people who have started up their own small business or record label or charity or whatever it is. Just really a passion for life and doing stuff, actually getting it done. There's a lot of people who just talk in this industry, and what clients want is people who are actually going to do things.
But you can't necessarily have an agency or company full of people who are all hungry, entrepreneurial. I guess, would you not agree that you need some people who do a job well, and then other people who are the people that want to get to the top?
No, but both. I didn't talk about getting to the top. I mean getting stuff done.
Okay. So
I definitely want an agency packed with hungry, entrepreneurial types who want to get the job done and get the best job done possible. I don't want them to be thinking about them doing that because I want to go up a rung. I want them to be doing it because they love doing it. And I think Fallon in its history has always been full of people who really love the job. I think that is what cuts us apart. No one is really here for the money. I think people are here because they love doing what they do.
In all of the places you've worked, who's the best person you've recruited, and for what reason were they?
Oh, that's a big question. My current head of production here, Katie Bradford. I know her, and I've recruited her twice before at other parts of my career, and she's just the most brilliant, effortless doer.
So do people like that bind to you personally in your vision of what you're looking to achieve when you join different companies, or is it the fact that it just so happens that you've worked at agencies that she's also wanted to work for?
I think you have to ask them why they do what they buy into. I think it's really important as a CEO when you're talking to someone about coming to work that you give a really clear vision for the place that they're coming to join, and that you believe in that. So I hope that's why people come to Fallon.
Okay. What's the best bit of career advice you've been given?
Move on. Forget about it.
And what's the best bit of career advice you would give to people?
Don't worry about it. Yesterday's gone, tomorrow's not here yet. Do what you're doing now really well.
Fine. Let's move on to a quick fire round.
Yeah.
FWA or NMA?
Don't know.
Good, I wanted you to say that. Fruit or veg?
Veg.
Can line or D&AD pencil?
Oh, neither. Just did it work.
Okay. Art directors or copywriters?
Dead. Everyone's creative these days.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Degree or no degree?
Don't care.
Ant or deck?
They're both Geordies like me, so I don't know which one's which.
To be fair, you're losing your accent a lot.
Yeah, no pet, but I don't mind either.
The best looking person you've worked with?
Jason Goodman at Albion, when he was younger.
Alright, so what's on with now? Smartest person you've worked with?
couldn't call one out. Lots of smart people.
The most creative person you've ever worked with?
Santiago, our creative director here.
Retained work or pitch work?
Just good work.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
Oh. There's a stability in the latter and an excitement about the former, so it depends what you want.
I want you to commit to one. You sit on the fence.
I've never worked for an independent agency.
Okay, fine, I'll let you have that then. Web or mobile?
Mobile.
Outsourced production or on-site production?
Probably outsourced these days.
Awards or pay rises?
One will lead to the other, I imagine.
And lastly, twist or stick?
Twist.
In fact, I'm going to add an extra one in right at the end. Don Draper or Roger Sterling?
What?
Don Draper or Roger Sterling?
Oh, Don Draper is gorgeous.
Thank you very much.